Welcome to Pink Caddy Garage. Today we're going to install new pads and rotors on my mom's Mercedes.
This is a 2017 GLS450 and it's got about 60,000 miles on it. So we've gotten pretty good life out of these brakes, but they are making some racket.
It's awful.
Let's go. One thing on these Mercedes SUVs, it's a little tough to figure out where to put your jack stand. Normally you'd put it underneath the frame, but we don't really have one here. So I just want to show you right quick. You've got to jack the car up using this rubber jack pad, which is near the end of the running board here. So we're going to leave this jack here as our first thing, but of course you're going to need a jack stand. So let's go around to the back of the car and I'm going to show you what we've got set up there. So on the same side of the car, the most robust part you're going to have to work with here is this big cross brace, this black part that your lower control arms bolt onto. So you can put a jack stand there. We've just got the jack lowered enough so that it's resting here, so if the jack failed, it's still going to be okay. May or may not, if you had a jack failure, damage this control arm, but I'd rather buy a control arm than get crushed by a car. So that's the way we're going to do this. Your mileage may vary. All right, since this has an electric parking brake, you're going to have to go through these menus right here. Using these buttons, that is, on the steering wheel to retract the caliper. So job one is get your display up to where it shows the miles there, and don't put your foot on the brake and hit the start button once. It'll bring it back up. Now once that's up, you will press and hold this telephone icon, and within 1 second press and hold OK. So 1, 2. Then watch your screen. It will come up and it says a new menu here. The third option is pad replacement, which is what we want. So I'm going to use my down arrow and hit OK. So if you get an error message at this point, it's because you either have the parking brake on, which you need to take it off, or you have the ignition on, which you don't want. So you only want very few lights on. If you've got all your warning lights on, then you've gone too far and you'll need to start over. So we've got a good menu here that says to move to fitting position, hit OK. So we're going to do that, and it's going to take about 20 seconds or so to retract that piston in the caliper. And once it says we are good, then we're going to turn this ignition back off. There we go. So let's turn it off and let's go work on removing that caliper.
Now that the piston is backed off, there are two 13mm bolts that you're going to take off. This is the bottom one we already removed. So you'll have one at the top here and then one down at the back here. You're going to need your 13mm and then a 17 you'll want it to just put on here just to hold. And you'll just need to kind of fit it on. We had to do that earlier just to get the lower one off. You'll just remove this bottom one to get that caliper off. Take a flathead screwdriver and you just push this tab up and you'll just jiggle it out and take it off. Now we're ready to remove the caliper, and we're going to bungee cord it so that we don't damage this brake line. So we're just going to jiggle that mama off. Slow and steady.
Keep wiggling there.
Just keep swimming, right? There we go. And she's off.
So both of the brake pads stayed in place. You're going to need to kind of just wiggle those out. That is one. It looks great, but I promise you the back one doesn't. This is the one that was making all the noise. And we got our money's worth out of that guy right there. So let's go ahead and then we're going to take this bracket off next so we can get to our rotor. To get this bracket off, you're going to have two 18mm bolts. Again, one at the top, one at the bottom. So get your 18mm wrench or a socket and back those out.
To remove the rotor, you're going to need to remove this T30 Torx screw, and it should be pretty easy to get off. That rotor was rusted to the hub, so we had to take a mallet and some WD-40 right here in this crease, and it should just come right off, just like that.
Let's see the back of it. Yep, That's where all the noise is coming from right there.
Ugh.
All right, let's get our new parts.
All right.
To help that to not rust up so much, we're going to clean this up with a little bit of a wire brush and then put a little bit of wheel bearing grease or just any kind of a grease to act as a moisture barrier there. So let's take care of that right quick.
Better.
So that was about 15 seconds worth. So it doesn't have to be perfect unless you're going into some car shows or something, I don't know. But you just want to get most of the loose scale off. So we're going to need to get this piston pushed all the way back. So this is one of those little $8 parts from the auto parts store, but it seems to work pretty good. Get in there in position and push that piston back as far as it will go. And occasionally check your brake fluid level to be sure it's not overflowing as you do this. Okay. So with any new brake parts, like this rotor, could have a light coating of oil on it to keep it from rusting. So we just picked up some brake clean from the old auto parts store. So just wipe that all around. I've already done this one once in another take. But anyway, be sure you do both sides, front and back. And that rotor is ready to go on. We're going to go ahead and put on our light coating of grease just around the face of this hub here. That way maybe the next time it won't be rusted on quite so badly. You don't need a whole lot, but you want it everywhere, and then just kind of take the majority of it back off again. Now let's get that rotor on. Rotor ought to go on easily. Make note of where your hole, make note of where the hole is for our little retainer. Gonna have to move it around a little bit, but I can't do that while I'm holding the light. All right, with that in position, just put your little Torx screw back in. Not super tight, was it, when you took it off?
No.
Yeah. Just get it snugged on there. If you break it off in there, it's going to ruin your day. Not a lot.
Snug as a bug in a rug.
So to put your new pads on, just make note of the position where they came off. You remember this one was really tore up and it was on the back, so it's going to go on the back side. This one's going to go on the front. You can see this part has a little bit of variance, and that's how you'll know you're putting them on correctly. So your brake part should come with some of this, what they call brake paste. This one's made by Power Stop. That's who made the brake kit. I think Mercedes probably makes the best one, but since it's a Sunday, I didn't have access to a Mercedes dealership. But you want to coat the backs of your pads and these little ears here with it, and then your pins that hold the caliper in place, you're going to want to clean them up and put a light coating on them as well. All right, we've got our bracket back on. Went ahead and put the back pad in. I'm going to show you how to do the front. Basically, you've got these two little clips here, which I'm reusing the factory ones because they always seem to be better than the ones that come with the kits. But I do have grease on the ends as well. You just kind of tap that down in there. Sometimes it seems like they won't fit, but it will. Just kind of angle it around in there and get it pushed in.
Beautiful.
Get your grease nice and distributed, and then we're ready to put that caliper back on. Now that our pads are in, we're going to put our pins back in here. So one at the top, one at the bottom, and then we're ready to get our caliper on. So you're going to want to, these pins have a little spring loading action to them because of the these little rubber boots. So you're going to want to see if you can get that pushed in enough to get these guys started. You're going to have to hold this in position and then get your 13mm bolts and then get them started. So once you get those bolts started, get your 17 wrench again and hold that guy on. So once you get these two caliper bolts on, just get your 17 to hold this inner nut on, and as you're doing that, you will just get these snug down. So I'm having to put this little video segment in after the fact, a little bit later, because we're getting that check brake pad wear every time we're starting the car. And the reason is because we did not switch out this sensor,
which is only on the right side. All of our video for the brake change was made on the left side, but on the right side, you've got one sensor. So let's go over how to do that right quick. All right, so we're at the passenger side, or right, rear of the car. And there we can see that is where the plug goes into the caliper, I guess. And then there's going to be another end that just pokes in. So you just give it a gentle squeeze. I'd already loosened it up. You may have to give it a little more of a wiggle than that. And then you should be able to either pull this out or coax it out with your needle nose pliers. So I'm going to show you what we're working with here. You can see where the wires terminate. We're going to just grab that little piece and give it a wiggle. Where is it? Comes out just like that. So we're going to put our new one in and see if we can get that message to go away. So you can see the hole set up right here. Here's where our electrical connector is going to go, and that is going to be where the pin goes, that little hole right there. Just put it in real gently. Don't get too rough with it or it'll break. Had to put the camera down to get this thing in correctly with the pin and all. Just push it in, and then when you seat it, you will feel a click. And then this is a little bit oval shaped, so just be sure you have it oriented correctly to put in here. See if I can do this while I'm holding the camera. Yeah. And then may have to seat that one. There, I felt a click. And if you haven't already, you can put your parking brake pads back in the normal position by hitting OK again when this menu's up. And it will take a few seconds, but it will give you an OK, and you should be good to go. All right, moment of truth. I'm going to call that success.
Are we about done here?
Yeah, I'm sure the front brakes will be next.
Yes. Now before we go, I just wanted to tell you that we have started an Etsy shop, so you can get t-shirts. Dad's not wearing his, but if you go under About Us, you can find it, and we hope you purchase one. Have a good one.
What's an Etsy shop?